Hey again, everybody. So it's been a few days. You can see here I worked on this thing a little bit. Let's see. You can tell here that I've worked on the robot a fair bit. And what I did to keep from smudging, so I just put this paper. Just saw a little spot that I want to actually put a little bit of line there. There, that's better. I use that paper to keep my hands from smudging too much. Now, in here, it feels a little dark. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit. And what I'm doing is I'm taking my eraser. See how we got white? And you fold it back over and then you pinch it if that's what you want, if you want a little fine reflection. And you can rub it in there and put that little reflection in. There we go. So I don't know I hope that showed up on the video. And that's all you do. You just keep pulling this and stretching it. And see, it's nice and white. That means it's clean. What happens is it just absorbs the graphite. And the light there. Yeah. See if I can find a spot that's fairly dark. So you can see there, see how dirty it looks? Now it's nice and clean again. So that's how you clean these erasers. That's the only way to do it. So this has a fair bit of work, to be honest. It's not one of my better pieces. And to be frank with you, I haven't drawn in a few months. Not like this. I've done my little abstract pen doodles. I think I overworked. Oh, there it's coming. But I haven't actually drawn something in this style in quite a while. So what I'm doing here is I'm just putting some tone just to replicate a little bit of a shadow that it was being cast. My lighting has changed a little bit and that shadow isn't quite the same there anymore. Actually, I bumped the still life the other day and everything fell, so it's not even in the same place. I just realized that. So, I don't know if you can see that, but I put that little shadow in, and that helps reduce the line there, because I don't want too much line. And on those books, I'm just letting the texture of the paper show through. Because I want a different feel between the jar and the robot and these books. These are both hard and shiny. And that elephant honestly lands somewhere in between. So I want to differentiate the texture. I might have to, it's not really doing what I want it to do. I might have to cut a sliver off my white eraser. It's another technique you can use. You take this eraser, the white one, and you just take a knife and just slice a little piece off of it. And that gives you a little, almost razor sharp little edge, and it can give you some really, really nice highlights. I've been toying with the idea of putting the details on this jar, but to date I've still avoided it. I've kind of hinted at it. You can see the movement through, and that just hints at the little details on the jar. I did add some of the details of the book. You can see these lines, and then the light color or light tone areas. Those just represent some of the detail on the one book. I decided to go ahead and put just a little bit, just a little of that. And I changed this here to reflect the edge of that book because it looked off without it, so I put it back in. So you can see I'm just adding little details. I've got a nice sharp pencil, still using my 4B. This mask is kind of bugging me, it needs work, but I'll deal with it later. And I've only just blocked in the elephant. So I just kind of blocked in the heavier tones. And I'm going to really go after that line where he sits, and a little bit of tone coming up the foot. And a little bit of cast tone there. And then the same thing here. A little line. I'll let that one break a little bit. And I got a little too much line showing there, so I'm going to deepen the tone. Soften that line. You don't want to have too many hard lines. Go back in and put them in later where you need them. Kind of like you've seen me do in a couple spots here. Totally forgot to shade that leg. So and that leg is almost fully in shadow. Except for a little spot, and really dark right up there. And then there's a little highlight picking up here. Very dark where it's planted on the surface. Crease there. And I'm kind of letting the texture of the paper work for the elephant as well, because I think it looks better than being shiny looking. A little reflection right there. And you can see that I'm not doing this and then this and then this. There's no lines in between. I'm trying to get a nice gradient, nice transition of tone. Some of them, you don't want too much banding, what they call banding. Now there is some going on that I still have to go and fix. Like I said, there's some hours left in this. Just saw a little part that's bugging me. I think that needs to be, whoops, crisp. Right there. Just broke my lead and it caused a little change in the type of line, the line quality that I was getting. Yeah. A little darker tone. Just gonna let the line stay there. That looks better. A little dark there to better reflect the lip of that lid. A little there. And it kind of disappears as it gets towards you. So you can see I was working on the elephant, but then because your eye should always be looking, I was distracted by something else. Always looking. So don't feel you need to finish one spot before you can move on to something else. That is not the case at all. I'll let that line travel up the leg a little bit. That looks nice. So this is where you get to use a little bit of artistic license, and you start to go back and put line back into the drawing. Your first goal as you're shading is to try to take the line away, in my opinion, because as I said in the other video, lines become edges. Or sorry, yeah, lines become edges. I thought I said that wrong for a minute. There, put a little better reflection there. See, it's good to leave these alone and let that line carry up a little bit too. It's good to leave them alone and come back to them. Take a break, because your eyes get lazy and you stop looking. You stop seeing the things you need to see. I'm gonna crisp up that. Oh, I did again. I'm so hard on my pencil. Crisp up that edge as well. Yeah, I like that. That's enough though. This edge is gonna stay soft. It's in light. It was catching a whole bunch of light. So we leave that a little softer. And I'm gonna go back and put the cast shadow back in there. Just to put, and that's that brings back the edge of that jar. Now you can see when I did that shadow, I'm shading straight up and down. Then I turned and did an angle, and then back on another angle, because that's how that shadow, actually that shadow is coming back even more here. There we go. It's interfering with that detail even more. And then coming up in here. Problem with my lighting here is I don't have great directional lighting, so I'm getting a lot of weird shadows and things. So I'm just kind of picking, trying to just pick the things that I like. So sometimes you're in a situation where you have multiple sources of light. And that's the case in my studio at the school. We don't have great lighting. Trying to check the time here, 15 minutes. So we end up with, you have to kind of be selective and pick the light and the shadow that works best for you. All right, some cleaning up that needs to happen down here. And what you can do to get rid of some of the smudging, if you've been smudging, just take your gray eraser, get a nice flat edge, and lighten those tusk lines up. I gotta shade those too. I'm just getting rid of that line. I'll erase those lines better later. I found them a little distracting. Now you could put a line across here if you wanted to replicate the table. And it can just be random. It doesn't have to be the way it is in real life. Make it work for you. It's going to come through there. Something like that. So if you want a little table showing there, do it. And if you want a corner, maybe it's sitting like that. If you want the table. It's all up to you. So it's like it's sitting on the corner of a table now. I'm actually going to change that just a little bit. I'll tell you why. Because here, that table edge was meeting right there on that book, which only leaves a little corner of that book showing, and that becomes a tension point. So I'm going to lower that. Let's see here. There we go. Now, this is one place where you could take a ruler oh yeah, you can see I was way off there. You could take a ruler here. No, it's got to go more like that. It's got to go more like that. So there's no reason you couldn't do that. And that will give you a table edge. Get rid of that. See, there's a lot of trial and error. Clean up that. Now again, right here, see that? A little tension point. But I don't want to change the table again. So what I'm going to do, using my artistic license, because I did kind of neglect the 3D side of that gun anyway. There we go. And now I just clean up underneath it a little bit. And now that tension point is gone. And my gun has a little more 3D feel to it, especially once I go back, clean up some highlights. Yeah, I've definitely worked that a little bit too much, so I'm gonna have to go in later with my, I'm gonna have to sharpen a little point with my other eraser. There we go, that's better. That actually looks better anyway. And then it's now back up to the elephant. So, because the elephant's carved, there's a lot of really strange angles happening on it. So I'm allowing myself to shade with those angles that I'm seeing. And I am going to take this blending stick and I'm just going to blend just a little bit under here. I don't like this blending stick, the angle's kind of off on it. And so when you think you're just touching the point to the paper, you're actually touching the whole blunt side. There we go. Now, as far as your table surface goes, we can continue this shadow here. And you can put that right back, because that's what it's doing. It's got a little hang out there for the gun. And you'll notice I didn't go too strong on the shape. I'm letting it be a little bit kind of off, if you want to say. And I'll go in and work that better later. And shadows are, it's dappled. It's not necessarily all even. In fact, there's a little bit of light showing right there. And then I can go in later with my eraser and clean that up. And I'm not really seeing a lot of shadow from the books, but the table is quite different. I did include a little shadow under here because there's shadow coming here. So I might just extend that. And that shows the edge of the papers in the book. And I can go and dapple that a little bit later too. Just make them work. Just look at the shadows and look what the tones are doing. What are the tones telling you? Is it lighter or darker than the book? If it's lighter, go in there and dapple it a little. Dapple. Because light invades. I'm not going to worry about the pages in the book. I honestly don't have the patience to do that tonight. And I don't really care about it. If I wanted to spend more time, I definitely could. I can definitely show there's a little kind of anomaly on the edge of that book where it's been banged. So I'm gonna go in there and show that a little bit. All right, I'm just gonna check my time. All right, guys, it's 24 minutes, so I hope this helps you out. Obviously, I'm still not done. That shows you how much patience you have to have and how much time it can take to work on these things. So have patience. Remember, there's no such thing as a mistake, just learning experiences. Everything's a chance to learn something new. So don't worry if you think you made a mistake. You just keep plugging away at it, or you can tear it up and start again, whatever you want to do, however you want to handle it. So I don't know if there'll be any more. I might post you one quick little 5-minute video once this is all done, but I hope you guys are having fun and keep on working hard. Take care, guys.